Okay, so I've been debating posting this for days, but I need to get this off my chest. I'm a single dad with two amazing kids, son 10, daughter 8, and we don't have the easiest relationship with my family. They've always thought I was the family disappointment. Didn't finish college, work a regular job instead of joining the family business, got divorced young, etc. Whatever. I've mostly kept my distance, but tried to maintain some connection so my kids could know their grandparents. My mom was turning 65 last weekend, and my sister Nancy texted me about the party. She didn't exactly invite me, just mentioned it was happening, but I figured this was a chance to maybe smooth things over. My kids were actually excited about seeing their grandma, which breaks my heart now thinking about it. They spent hours making these really thoughtful handmade cards the night before. My son drew this detailed picture of him and grandma fishing, something she took him to do once 3 years ago that he still talks about. My daughter made this pop-up card with little paper flowers inside. They were so proud of themselves. We drove 3 hours to get there. 3 hours, with kids asking, "Are we there yet?" and singing along to Spotify playlists the whole way. I kept telling them how much fun we'd have and how grandma would love their cards. God, I feel like such an asshole for that now. We pull up to my parents' house around 4 p.m. There were like 6 cars in the driveway, so clearly the party was happening. I could see balloons through the window. My kids were bouncing with excitement, holding their cards and practically racing each other to the door. I knock and my sister Nancy answers. The moment she sees me, her whole face just changes. She looks at me like I'm something she stepped in. She asks what the hell I'm doing there. My kids are standing right there, and they immediately go quiet. I explain we're here for Mom's birthday, trying to keep my voice calm. Nancy blocks the doorway with her arm and looks at my kids with this disgusted expression. She says something like, "What kids? This isn't family." I'm getting pissed at this point, but trying to keep it together for my kids. Then my mom appears behind her. Instead of being happy to see her grandkids, she tells me she already said I shouldn't come. She never said this BTW. We barely talk, but nobody told me not to come. My son, this sweet kid who just wants his grandma to love him, steps forward with his card and says he made her something. And then my mom just laughs at him. She tells him she's not his grandma and that his dad, me, is a loser who probably isn't even his real father. My daughter starts crying and grabs onto my leg. I'm in shock trying to process what's happening when my dad shows up with a beer in his hand. He tells me to get these little bastards off his property. His exact words. About his own grandchildren. The worst part? My brother Corey is recording this whole thing on his phone, laughing and saying this is gold. That the family failure brought his failure kids. My sister starts telling my children that this is why they don't talk about their dad, because he's embarrassing. My son looks up at me confused and asks why they're being so mean. My mom steps onto the porch and tells him it's because his dad is a 38-year-old nothing who works for minimum wage. I don't BTW. I make decent money, just not their level of wealth. Then my dad points at my kids and says something like, probably not even his kids. What woman would touch him? They slam the door in our faces while my brother is still filming through the window. My kids were absolutely sobbing. We sat in the car for an hour in their driveway while they asked me what they did wrong and why Grandma and Grandpa hate them. I just kept smiling gently and stroking their hair. But inside, I was seething. Absolutely fucking seething. We drove all night to get home. My daughter fell asleep crying. My son just stared out the window the whole time. I've never felt rage like this in my entire life. Not when my ex left. Not when I got passed over for promotions. Never. Here's where it gets interesting. I've known some things about my family's finances for years. Things they really wouldn't want getting out. The next morning, I put certain documents in a red envelope and sent it by registered mail so they'd have to sign for it. That evening, my phone exploded. 60-plus missed calls from every single family member. Voicemails ranging from threats to crying to begging. They have no idea what's coming next. Update 1. Some of you asked what was in the red envelope, so here's the update. It's been a wild few days. So after we got home from that disaster at my mom's birthday, I spent Sunday taking care of my kids. We had ice cream for breakfast. Yeah, I know. Bad parenting, whatever. And watched movies all day. I needed them to feel normal again. My daughter kept asking if Grandma was mad at her for something she did. Broke my fucking heart. My son was quieter. Just processing, I guess. Monday morning after dropping them at school, I took the day off work and drove to the post office. That red envelope? It contained copies of tax documents my brother accidentally left on a shared cloud folder 2 years ago. I discovered them when I was helping him set up his new laptop. He never knew I saw them. These weren't just any documents. They showed how my family's business has been hiding income for years. We're talking serious shit. Fake invoices, offshore accounts, the works. I never said anything because, despite everything, they were family. But after what they did to my children, all bets are off. I also included a copy of a thumb drive with my brother's video of them humiliating my kids. Yeah, the genius uploaded it to our family cloud too. Some people just don't understand technology, I guess. By Monday evening, my phone was blowing up. I ignored all the calls and texts at first, until my sister Nancy showed up at my house around 8 p.m. She must have driven the full 3 hours right after getting the envelope. She pounded on my door so hard my kids got scared. I told them to go to their rooms and put on headphones to watch YouTube. Then, I opened the door. Nancy pushed past me into my living room without even asking. Her face was all red and she was shaking. She asked what the hell I thought I was doing, and if I understood what would happen if those documents got out. I just laughed, like actually laughed in her face. Told her she should have thought about consequences before they treated my kids like garbage. She said they were just joking around and I was being too sensitive. That my kids needed to toughen up. Toughen up. My 8-year-old daughter, who cried herself to sleep, needed to toughen up after being told her grandma doesn't consider her family. I reminded Nancy that my brother recorded everything, their exact words, their faces, everything. Asked her how it would look to everyone else in the family if I shared that video. How would our cousins feel? Our aunts and uncles? What would the neighbors think? She changed tactics fast. Started saying how mom has been having health issues, news to me, and that's why she was a little short with the kids. Said dad had been drinking, no shit, when isn't he? Blamed everyone but herself. So I showed her my phone screen. I'd already sent the video to our cousin Adelaide, who always got along with me despite everything. Adelaide had already responded saying she was disgusted and couldn't believe they would talk to children that way. Nancy started crying, after she spent years looking down on me. After she told my children I was embarrassing, now she cries? I asked her why they've always treated me like shit, and finally got some truth. Apparently, when I decided not to join the family business after dropping out of college, Dad took it as a personal insult. He'd been telling everyone I thought I was too good for them, that I disrespected the family legacy, all this bullshit. They've been painting me as the villain for 15 years because I didn't want to work for my toxic father. Nancy tried grabbing my phone to see who else I'd sent the video to. I pushed her away and told her to get out of my house. She refused, saying we needed to work this out as a family. I told her we stopped being family when they humiliated my children. She tried the guilt trip next. Did I realize what would happen to mom and dad if those tax documents got out? Did I want them to go to jail in their old age? I told her I hadn't decided what to do with the documents yet. That was the first lie I'd told her. I'd already scheduled a meeting with the IRS for later that week. Nancy finally left when I threatened to call the cops, but not before warning me that I'd regret this. Classic Nancy. Always has to have the last word. Tuesday morning, I woke up to 27 new texts from my brother Corey. He went from threatening me to begging me to delete the video. Apparently, he's trying to get investors for some new project, and having a video of him mocking children might hurt his chances. No shit, asshole. My mom called while I was at work. I stepped outside to take it because I wanted to hear what she'd say. She started by asking if I realized what I was doing to the family. Not a single word about her grandchildren. Not one apology. Just concern about exposure. I asked her why she'd been telling people not to invite me to family events. Turns out she's been embarrassed by me for years. My failure to launch, as she called it. My divorce. Being a single dad. Everything about my life embarrasses her. I told her I had the video of what they said to my kids, and her tone changed immediately. She tried claiming they didn't mean it, that it was just a bad day. I reminded her that she laughed in my son's face when he offered her a handmade card. There was this long pause, then she asked what I wanted. What I wanted. Like this was a negotiation. Like you can buy your way out of treating children like that. I hung up. Wednesday, I got a call from my uncle, Dad's brother, who I haven't spoken to in maybe 2 years. He was furious. He'd seen the video. Apparently Adelaide had shared it with him. He wanted to know if it was real or edited. I told him to ask his brother. By Wednesday night, half the extended family had seen the video. My phone kept buzzing with messages from relatives I barely talked to. Some defending my parents, the older generation mostly. Others horrified by how they treated my kids. Thursday is when it got really interesting. My dad called from a number I didn't recognize. I'd blocked him by then. He started by yelling, then quickly shifted to something closer to panic. He said they were about to close a deal that would double the family business's value. If their reputation took a hit right now, or if there were any distractions, like a tax investigation, the deal would fall apart. I asked if humiliating my children was a distraction too. He hung up. Friday morning, I dropped my kids at school and then drove to my scheduled appointment with the IRS. I brought everything, the documents, supporting evidence, dates, names. The agent I spoke with took it all very seriously. On my way home, my sister called again. She'd found out about the IRS meeting somehow. She was practically screaming, saying I'd destroyed the family, asking if I was happy now. I told her I was just getting started. This weekend, my kids and I are staying with a friend because I don't trust my family not to show up again. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with the potential investors my brother mentioned. Turns out one of them is my old college roommate. Small world. They have no idea what's coming next. Update 2. Shit has hit the fan since my last update. My family is in full panic mode, and I'm honestly struggling to keep up with all the different ways they're trying to stop me. Thanks for all the support, BTW. It's been weirdly helpful knowing internet strangers think I'm not the asshole here. So remember how I mentioned meeting my brother's potential investors? That happened Monday morning. Turns out my old college roommate Legend, not his real name obviously, is now a partner at this investment firm that was considering putting serious money into my brother's new tech venture. We hadn't talked in years, but reconnected on LinkedIn a while back. I didn't plan to sabotage the meeting or anything dramatic like that. Just wanted to catch up with Legend and maybe get some intel on what my family was planning. We met for coffee before his meeting with my brother. Legend asked why I wasn't involved in the family business after all these years. I shrugged and said the family politics weren't for me. He nodded like he understood, then casually mentioned that my brother had been talking me up during their preliminary discussions. Said I was some kind of tech genius who helped develop their current systems and would be joining the new venture soon. WTF? My brother has been using my name to get investment money? I've never worked a day for their business and barely understand what they actually do beyond finance stuff. I showed Legend the video of my family at my mom's birthday. His face just dropped. Then I explained that not only was I not involved in their business, but my brother was actively lying about my participation while simultaneously treating my children like garbage. Legend thanked me for the heads up and said he'd be taking a much closer look at all the claims my brother had been making. The meeting wasn't for another hour, so I left and went to work. By lunchtime, my phone was blowing up with texts from my brother. All caps, misspelled rage about how I'd ruined everything, cost him millions, destroyed his reputation, the usual dramatic bullshit. Apparently, Legend and his firm pulled out of the meeting completely after doing some additional due diligence. Wonder what that could be about, LOL. But that wasn't even the main drama of the week. Tuesday morning, I dropped my kids at school like normal. As I was walking back to my car, I noticed my dad's Lexus parked across the street. He was just sitting there, watching the school. My blood went fucking cold. I marched over and knocked on his window. He rolled it down looking smug as hell, asked if I was proud of myself for what I was doing to the family, said my mother hadn't slept in days because of me. I asked what the hell he was doing at my kids' school. He said he just wanted to see his grandchildren since I was keeping them from the family. I reminded him that less than 2 weeks ago, he called them bastards and told me to get them off his property. He waved his hand like that was nothing, said I was overreacting and everyone says things they don't mean when they're angry. Then he tried to act like he cared, asking how the kids were doing after our little misunderstanding. I told him to leave immediately or I'd call the police and get a restraining order. He laughed and said I couldn't keep his grandchildren from him. That grandparents have rights. I pulled out my phone and showed him I was 1 click away from calling 911. Told him that his rights ended when he verbally abused my children and allowed his family to humiliate them on camera. He finally drove away, but not before warning me that my mother was beside herself, and I'd better fix things before her health deteriorated further. Classic guilt trip. I immediately went to the school office and updated their pickup list, specifically excluding all my family members and adding photos. The secretary looked confused until I explained there was a family situation. She was super understanding and added a note to both kids' files. Wednesday was when things really escalated. I got home from work to find my mom sitting on my front porch. She looked terrible, honestly. But after everything, I wasn't about to feel bad for her. I asked how she found my address since I'd moved last year and never told them. She said Nancy gave it to her. Mental note. My sister is still the worst. My kids were at their after-school program, so I let her inside. Didn't offer her anything to drink or eat. Just waited for whatever manipulation was coming next. She started by saying she'd seen the video my brother took, that she was embarrassed by her behavior and hadn't realized how it looked. Not that she was sorry, mind you, just embarrassed it was recorded. Then she got to the real reason for her visit. The IRS had already contacted them about an audit. Apparently, they move fast when you show up with evidence of years of tax fraud. Their business accounts were temporarily frozen pending investigation. She begged me to tell the IRS it was all a misunderstanding, that I'd made a mistake. She even brought checkbook, offering to help with the kids' education if I'd just make this go away. I laughed in her face. Told her no amount of money would make me forget how they treated my children, how they'd treated me for years. That's when she told me the real reason they've always resented me. Turns out the family business was struggling badly before I was born. My dad had to take on investors and give up controlling interest to keep it afloat. For years, he blamed his failures on having to focus on family instead of work, me specifically. By the time I was old enough to join the business, they'd built it back up. Dad saw it as my chance to make things right, to help him buy back control from the investors. When I dropped out of college and refused to join them, it was like I was betraying him twice. I asked why they took it out on my kids. She had the nerve to say they weren't really thinking of them as actual people, just extensions of my poor choices, that my children reminded them of my failure to prioritize family legacy. I asked her to leave. She refused, saying we needed to work this out for the sake of the family. I told her there was no we anymore, that she and Dad and Nancy and Corey were no longer my family. My children were my family. She started crying, but I was done. Told her to leave before the kids got home. I didn't want them seeing her and getting confused or upset again. As she was leaving, she handed me an envelope, said Dad wanted me to have it. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a handwritten note that just said, for the children's future. I ripped it up in front of her and dropped the pieces at her feet. Thursday morning, I got a call from Uncle Teddy, Mom's brother, not Dad's. He's always been the reasonable one in the family. He said he'd seen the video and heard about the IRS situation from my aunt. Asked if we could meet for lunch to talk. I was skeptical, but agreed. We met at this diner halfway between our places. He came alone, which I appreciated. Unlike everyone else, Uncle Teddy actually asked about my kids first, how they were doing, if they understood what was happening. Then he told me something I never knew, that my parents had treated my older cousin, his son, the same way when he decided not to go into the family business. That's why we rarely saw that side of the family at gatherings. He said the business had been my grandfather's obsession, and my dad inherited that along with the company. That nothing would ever be more important to him than that legacy, not even his own children or grandchildren. Uncle Teddy didn't ask me to back down or make peace. He just wanted me to know I wasn't the first person they'd pushed away, and I wouldn't be the last. That it wasn't my fault. Friday was when the legal threat came. I got home to find a certified letter from some fancy law firm. They're threatening to sue me for defamation, breach of confidentiality, tortious interference with business relations, and a bunch of other legal gibberish. The letter claims I signed an NDA when I helped my brother with his computer years ago. I didn't. That I'm making false statements about the family. I'm not. And that I need to cease and desist all communications about them or face legal action. The best part? The letter demands I pay them $200,000 for damages to the business and family reputation. I'm not worried. I've already talked to a lawyer friend who says their case is bullshit, but it shows how desperate they're getting. This weekend, I'm taking my kids camping to get away from all this drama for a bit. My daughter asked yesterday if we were ever going to see Grandma and Grandpa again. I told her I didn't think so, but that it wasn't because of anything she did. That sometimes adults make choices that hurt other people, and those people have to protect themselves by staying away. My son hugged me and said he was glad I was his dad and not Grandpa. I almost lost it right there. Oh, and I got a text from Nancy this morning saying they've called a family meeting for Monday to discuss my behavior, and that I need to be there. I replied with a middle finger emoji and blocked her number. The war isn't over yet. Final update. First off, thanks for all the comments and support on my previous posts. A lot has happened in the past few weeks and I've been too busy dealing with everything to update until now. So I didn't go to that family meeting Nancy tried to summon me to. Instead, I spent Monday morning with my lawyer friend finalizing restraining order paperwork against my parents and siblings. I had plenty of evidence. The video, the texts, my dad showing up at my kids' school uninvited, Nancy barging into my house. The judge granted temporary orders the same day. Tuesday morning, I was making breakfast when my phone started blowing up with notifications. Turns out my brother had posted this long rant on Facebook about me, calling me a family traitor, and claiming I was trying to destroy our parents in their old age. He tagged a bunch of extended family and family friends. Real classy move, but it backfired spectacularly. People started commenting asking what he was talking about. Someone, pretty sure it was cousin Adelaide, posted the video of them humiliating my kids right in the comments. Within hours, the whole thing had blown up. My inbox was flooded with messages from people I hadn't talked to in years. Second cousins, old family friends, even my mom's sister who lives in another state. Almost everyone was horrified by how they treated my kids. My Aunt Gladys, mom's sister, called me directly. She was in tears, saying she had no idea how toxic things had gotten. Apparently, my parents had been telling everyone for years that I was the one who cut them off, that I refused to let them see their grandchildren because I was bitter about something. The family business started feeling the impact almost immediately. They've always relied heavily on their reputation and connections in our community. By Wednesday, my Uncle Teddy told me several longtime clients had quietly pulled their accounts. The country club crowd my parents hang with started avoiding them at social events. Thursday morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was my dad's business partner, a guy named Rex I'd met maybe twice at company parties years ago. He wanted to clear the air about a few things. We met for coffee, and he told me something I never knew. My father had been using my name for years in business deals, claiming I was some kind of silent partner or consultant, even going so far as to forge my signature on documents. Rex only realized it was fraud when he saw my brother's Facebook meltdown and the subsequent fallout. I asked why my dad would do something so stupid and risky. Rex explained that after I refused to join the business, my dad couldn't admit to his partners and investors that his son had rejected the family legacy, so he pretended I was involved behind the scenes. Had been doing it for years. Friday afternoon, I got served with a formal lawsuit from my family. They're suing me for defamation, claiming I'm spreading malicious falsehoods about them. The irony of them accusing me of lying after what my dad had been doing with my name wasn't lost on me. My lawyer laughed when I showed him the paperwork, said it's a desperate attempt to intimidate me and has zero chance in court, especially with the video evidence. He filed a countersuit for harassment the same day. The weekend was quiet. Too quiet. I took the kids to a movie and tried to have a normal Saturday. My son asked if we were in trouble because Grandpa and Grandma were mad at us. I told him we weren't in trouble, that sometimes adults do bad things and then get mad when there are consequences. He seemed to understand. Monday morning, the IRS investigation became public knowledge. Apparently, when federal agents show up at a business with boxes and computers, people notice. My brother posted another rant on Facebook, this time directly accusing me of betraying family secrets and destroying our parents' legacy. The comments were not kind to him. Multiple people called him out for filming children being abused and then complaining about consequences. He deleted the post within hours, but the damage was done. Tuesday was when everything really imploded. I was at work when my lawyer called. He'd received a settlement offer from my family's attorneys. They wanted to drop all legal action against me in exchange for me asking the IRS to end their investigation. They also wanted me to sign an NDA agreeing never to speak about the family again. I laughed out loud, like actually snorted coffee through my nose. My lawyer told them we weren't interested, but they insisted on a face-to-face meeting. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet at my lawyer's office Thursday. Wednesday night, my kids were at their mom's place. She lives about 20 minutes away and we share custody. And I was home alone when someone started pounding on my door around 9 p.m. It was Nancy, looking absolutely wrecked. Her eyes were red, her hair was a mess, and she smelled like she'd been drinking. I almost closed the door in her face, but she started crying. Said she needed to talk to me, that things had gotten out of control. Against my better judgment, I let her in. Nancy told me the business was collapsing. The IRS had frozen most of their accounts. Major clients were leaving. Their reputation was ruined. She begged me to call off the attack and help save the family. I asked why I should care after how they treated my children. She broke down completely then, admitting that she'd always been jealous of me. That despite all their talk about me being a disappointment, I was the only one who'd actually built a life outside Dad's shadow, that I had real relationships with my kids while she had nothing but the business. For a second, just a second, I felt bad for her. Then she switched tactics and started blaming me again, saying I was selfish for not caring about family legacy, that my children would have inherited part of the business someday if I hadn't ruined everything. I told her to get out, that she had the nerve to talk about my kids' inheritance after treating them like they weren't even family. She tried to slap me, but I caught her wrist and pushed her toward the door. Told her if she ever came to my house again, I'd call the police. Thursday's meeting at my lawyer's office was tense. My parents, Nancy and Corey, were all there with their attorney. My dad wouldn't even look at me. Mom kept dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Nancy stared at the table. Corey glared at me the whole time. Their lawyer started by saying they wanted to resolve this family dispute amicably, laid out their settlement offer again. They'd drop the lawsuit if I would contact the IRS and tell them it was all a mistake. My lawyer calmly explained that I couldn't stop an IRS investigation even if I wanted to, which I absolutely didn't. He then presented our terms. They would stay away from me and my children permanently, issue a written apology that I could share with extended family, and pay for therapy for my kids to process the trauma they'd caused. My dad slammed his fist on the table, started ranting about how I'd destroyed everything he'd built, how I was getting my revenge by burning down the family legacy. asked if I was happy now that I'd ruined my own children's future inheritance. I just laughed, told him my kids were never going to inherit his toxic legacy anyway, that I'd rather they grow up with nothing but love than with his kind of money and cruelty. My mom tried next, going on about family meaning everything and how blood is thicker than water. I reminded her that she literally told my son she wasn't his grandmother, so clearly blood didn't mean that much to her. The meeting ended with nothing resolved. As we were leaving, my brother muttered that I'd regret this. My lawyer heard him and said it sounded like a threat, which would violate the restraining order. Corey shut up real quick after that. Friday morning, I got a call from Uncle Teddy. The family business was officially under full IRS investigation. Dad and my brother were being questioned about specific transactions. Several clients had filed complaints about fraudulent practices. The whole thing was falling apart. I didn't feel the satisfaction I expected, just tired, ready for it to be over.